You know that feeling when the power goes out and everyone else grabs their phone flashlight, but one person in the room already knows exactly where the candles and matches are without even standing up? That's not a coincidence. That's an entire generation quietly running background code nobody else can see. Generation X, the ones born between 1965 and 1980, never trend, never go viral, never get a think piece written about their feelings. But underneath that silence is one of the most specific psychological blueprints of any generation alive. That's not just being low-key. That's the result of growing up as the forgotten middle child of American history. Here are 6 traits you're carrying that blueprint whether you've ever named it or not. The first trait is they fix the problem before they even consider mentioning it exists. Something breaks, the faucet drips, the car makes a noise, and their first instinct isn't to ask who can help, it's to go get the toolbox. This traces back to being handed adult-sized responsibility on a kid-sized body, calling the school themselves to explain why they'd be late because there was no other adult around to do it. Dr. Aaron Beck's research on cognitive rehearsal shows that when a child repeatedly has to mentally walk through solving a problem alone, that rehearsal becomes the default script the brain reaches for as an adult, even when help is sitting right there in the next room. The second trait is they downplay pain until it's already an emergency. A headache becomes a migraine before they'll mention it. A bad week becomes a breakdown before they'll say they're struggling. They'll tell you they're fine on a day they can barely function. Not because they're lying, but because the bar for what counts as bad enough to mention got set impossibly high a long time ago. They learned early that need was inconvenient, that the adults around them were stretched too thin to absorb one more thing. So they trained themselves to only speak up once it was undeniable, once there was no other option left. The deeper truth is, this isn't toughness. It's a decades-old habit of making themselves smaller so nobody else has to carry more. The third trait, and this one runs quiet, is they instinctively keep their inner life off the record. No long captions, no processing breakups online, no real-time updates on how they're feeling. Growing up, a landline was shared property, a diary could be found, and a mistake stayed contained to the people actually in the room with you. Dr. Bernardo Carducci's work on social avoidance describes how early experiences of exposure without control over the narrative can wire a lasting instinct to guard information by default. For Gen X, privacy was never a preference. It was survival training. The fourth trait is the one that surprises people who love them. A sudden change of plans, a raised voice from another room, someone going quiet mid-conversation, and their whole body tightens before their mind catches up. That's not overreacting. Dr. Stephen Porges' work on the nervous system explains that a body raised in an unpredictable environment stays scanning for the next shift long after the danger is gone, treating uncertainty itself as a threat. Divorce rates climbed through their childhood, jobs disappeared without warning, and their nervous system simply never got the memo that it could stand down. The fifth trait lives entirely inside their head, and almost nobody else ever hears it. There's a constant running commentary calculating, second-guessing, narrating what could go wrong 3 steps ahead, but it almost never makes it out loud. Dr. Ethan Kross's research on inner speech shows that people who had to talk themselves through situations alone as children develop an unusually active internal voice, one that keeps working long after the moment has passed because for years it was the only advisor they actually had. The sixth trait is how they love, which almost never looks like what they feel. They show up early to help you move. They quietly fix your car without a speech about it. They remember the specific way you take your coffee, and they'll drive across town at midnight if you actually need them. No questions, no lecture, just there. What they don't do is announce any of it. And that gets mistaken for distance by people who grew up watching love get performed out loud, posted, captioned, made public. For them, love was never about the announcement. It was about being the one person who was actually reliably there when everyone else in the house wasn't, and they never once needed credit for it. If any of this landed, it's because you spent years being the steady one without anyone ever checking if you were okay. That doesn't make you cold. It makes you someone who learned to hold things together before you had the words for what you were holding. If this is you, or if it's someone in your life you never quite understood until now, tell me in the comments which trait hit hardest, and if you needed to hear this, hit subscribe.